I'm meteorologist Alex Calamia. I work at WLTX in Columbia, South Carolina, and I've also been bitten by the gardening bug at a very young age. I work in Gandy's garden right outside of our studios. After I'm done with the forecast, I'm planting fruits and vegetables and taking care of them. But this hobby started way back from when I was a really young kid, and it's grown over the years. It's involved a lot of unusual tropical plants, and it continues to involve those plants even all the way back in New York, which is where I'm from. So I want to talk to my mom just to sort of get an idea of what it's like to have a kid who has an unusual hobby and how she's helped nurture it. Hi, Mom. So my mom is joining me from Staten Island, which is the same house that I grew up in. As you can see, even though I haven't lived there full-time in several years, there's still a lot of plants in the background, a lot more than what you'd usually expect, and that's the kitchen, if you could believe it. So I guess my first question for you, Mom, is what is it like to have, like a kid who's 8 or 9 years old dragging in all of this dirt that has, what kind of bugs in it, and bring all of these plants into all different corners of the house, probably ruin the hardwood floors in the meantime.
Well, when you're a mother, you know that you'll do anything for your kids to make them happy, especially when they have such great hobbies. So Alex has always had interesting hobbies, which,
That's for
as
sure.
you know, are plants. And that had a lot to do with my mother, who introduced him as a young child to gardening because she loved flowers and plants, and he just loved, all the things that she did with planting such pretty flowers around her house and all.
Yeah.
So he got into our house. She used to come here and plant for me while I was at work, and he used to watch how she used to do everything. So I think he really enjoyed all the pretty flowers and all. And then he got into his own tropical garden because he loved, when we were in Florida, all the palm trees and all the exotic type of flowers that you have there. So he really, became so interested in gardening. So as he got older, all the plants started coming into the house because he wanted to save them so that we wouldn't kill them over the winter because it's cold over here. That way he could try to preserve them and put them back outside. So he just, had such great hobbies. So even though we had to put up with plants and bugs, we still do. And we have an exterminator that comes every month just to make sure we control any bugs that come in here with them.
Yeah, well, we don't have as many dangerous ones either as they do down here.
Mostly like beetles will come out every so often.
Yeah. You're not going to have snakes.
No, we do not have snakes, thank God.
Yeah.
So
one of the few perks to living in the city.
It does get a little crowded, and very soon in May, we'll have part of our house back again. We'll find a lot more room in the house now.
Yeah.
The plants will go out, and that's a process, too, of how they have to go out. And
I do bring them out, though. That's the one thing. So I stick you with all of the work during the winter and the summer when it comes to watering, and it is a lot of work as far as actually dragging all of those plants out. I do still hold my end of the bargain there, at least.
Me too. You always do. Even now with COVID-19,
we'll find a way.
Here so that he could take the plants out. If not, I will find a way. Don't worry about it. Definitely.
And so back to Grandma, she had a very large camellia in front of her house. Up north, it's actually kind of unusual because maybe now they're being planted more often, but 50 plus years ago when that shrub was planted, it just wasn't common, and people would always stop by and just be in total awe because they, thought it was a rose bush, but it was way too big to be a rose bush and blooming way too early to be a rose. So people were just so confused up north. And I was like, we could do that for other plants too.
Thank God Grandma was, here to help me to plant everything because I didn't know how to plant like she did. Everything, she just had a green thumb and everything took off and looked beautiful. So she really was my helper, and then you took over that role, which is wonderful.
And some of the plants that some of the nurseries on Staten Island have are so unusual. They would always bring in citrus and palm trees and bananas, like stuff that you're more familiar with in the South and particularly in tropical climates. So it was like, okay, you know what? I mean, if they're here for the summer, let's just keep them here for years to come. I mean, that palm tree that's behind you was a high school graduation gift
This is
for
it.
me. Yeah. So,
To the top of our kitchen, to this, the skylight over there.
yeah,
But
it's
it's just
big. It wasn't
big.
that big when we bought it, but it was still pretty big when we bought it. It's just even bigger now.
And the plumera that you have also,
Yep.
and too, that is all the way. Thank God we have a huge area in by the stairs because it just
Hmm.
keeps growing. And we have a lot of flowers also during the winter, which is unusual too.
Yeah, a little taste of Hawaii. And these are unusual plants, and you don't have that, at least initially, that gardening bug that you knew how to take care of all of them. So, like, what have you found, especially since, especially in New York, you guys are very much stuck in the house, but everywhere we're all, home and staying smart. Are the plants in any way a help, or is it just kind of taking up space at this point, or a little of
Yeah,
both?
it's definitely a help. And like I said, I'm looking forward to them going outside because I'm looking forward to gardening outside too. So I've sent you pictures every week. I try to send you pictures to show
Yeah,
you
we
in
do.
how everything is starting to grow now and bloom. So every week I try to send you what's the latest bloom and how now the leaves on the bushes and the plants are starting. And our camellia, also one of them has not bloomed in how many years, finally bloomed this year. And they are open. The garden place that we always go to is open. So I'm hoping to be able to get flowers towards, middle of May so that I can at least feel like when I want to go outside and do something, I can garden and that
Yeah.
will make me happy. And the other unusual flowers, and I don't know if they're going to be actually holding their garden day, was where you went to school at Rutgers,
Yep.
where they always had that.
You could buy them online
Could we really?
right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right, so buy them and send them in my way. Okay, which ones you want here? But
I
they have
will.
unusual plants, and then of course they have the usual, different, tomatoes and herbs and all, and they have shrubs, but they had such, and one whole section is the unusual plants that they
They
have over there.
do.
What we used to do, Alex and I, our adventures were we used to go look at people's gardens too, like
Oh,
pass by
yeah.
their house, and there were some that had very unusual plants, and it'd be like, oh my gosh, look what they have here. And then we would have to see if we can go find it somewhere also, certain palm trees and all. But that's a great like hobby for kids, and that's why I think Alex just loves plants because he just, he just learned from my mom how to appreciate nature
Yeah.
and also the weather. I mean, really, when he was, I think, probably 5, was when he became so fascinated with all like storms and lightning, and that's where he really loved the weather. And I mean, loved. He used to make his own weather forecast every
I
week on
did.
paper. So we'd have a 7-day forecast on paper. He used to draw what it was going to be, sunshine or rain. He'd have a few palm trees there too. And he used to love, another hobby you don't know about Alex is he really does also draw very well too.
Thank you.
So
I was actually looking at some of my drawings
yes,
today. I've been
beautiful.
I'd be rusty on it now. I think it's been a while,
He's
but
an expert in palm trees though.
I
So he was
do. I can
a
do that.
doodler of palm trees.
That's true.
So,
It's very niche.
and he used to also make how he was going to redecorate the backyard and landscape it. So he would have also different artwork where he was going to put certain gardens and everything too. And this happened at a young age. So, you know, I think it's just important to always, understand like what your children's interests are and make sure that you always do everything you can to make them fulfill their interests. Maybe it's not going to be their career, but it's going to be a hobby. But
Exactly.
at least with Alex, they both became, so important to him and to his career and all. So
It
I'm
kind
very
of blended, yeah. I mean, because I don't have a formal education in gardening, I don't have a horticulture degree, I don't have a biology degree, but it's something that I've been interested in my entire life, and it blends so well with being a meteorologist, which I do have a degree in, and that was where I followed my passion. And, plants were never even the backup plan either. It was just like I knew that that was what I wanted to do on my free time. And it just turns out that nowadays it's becoming so important to blend the two together. But, it's difficult to even go to the grocery store right now. So it's nice to have your own produce and to have your own plants. I mean, we always would plant a couple of different things like tomatoes and basil and squash, things that we liked. We would plant.
What kind of squash did you?
The kakuza. I love those.
Oh my gosh! And everybody in the neighborhood was like, "Where did you get that? Where did we get it? We got it at our local place." Have all those different types of plants.
Tons of literally crawling up the trees. That's always been my garden style. I'm not really the kind of person who plants in neat rows. I've always been the kind of person who just plants whatever, wherever, as long as it makes sense together,
We used to cut it up and put it into sauce. It was, delicious. So
well, that was the main recipe. It was just with anything, just put it in tomato sauce, and it's a pretty good rule of thumb, to be honest. Just if when in doubt, throw it in tomato sauce, and it's probably going to taste really good.
Pasta. Oh my gosh, it's great. So
it was really good. We have a lot of neighbors who.
This summer, we're going to have to try to. Plant that.
So there are different things that you can do. And since it's Earth Day, 50th Earth Day, which also happens to fall on Grandma's birthday, which we didn't realize, we put two and two together, which is kind of cool. I think that it's nice to sort of think about what you're going to do to be a little more environmentally conscious and sort of use the environment. It's one thing to protect the environment, but also to realize its value. And I think that even if you are gardening and you're not directly helping the environment, you're realizing its value and you're helping other people realize the value of green spaces. And that's kind of important too.
And we'll start bringing things outside. We'll have to.
I won't let you do it alone. I'll find a way. I will.
Your sister helps out too.
She does, reluctantly, but she does.
I was a twin, in case you didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know if people knew that.
We're very different from each other. She does not like gardening.
No, or plants.
She was a little baby. I think she liked to play with the dirt more than anything else than gardening, though.
Yeah.
She's totally different. I mean, she likes flowers to look at. But she
not even. No. She really doesn't.
Oh, she's got well, they're all right. It's there. She's the total opposite of him. She is more, I don't know if you know, she writes comic books. I'm proud of all my children.
Yeah, we all have unusual things that we like.
So she writes comic books, and she has a master's in writing for television. So whatever my children do, I'm proud of them, and they're successful in everything that, they love. That's what you have to do as a mom. You have to make sure that whatever they love, that's what you do for them. Even if it has all the plants in the house.
I know. And you've never, ever made me feel bad for it either. That's why it was the first question I asked you. It wasn't like you ever were like, I don't want all these plants in the house. Really, you never did. I swear to you. Because I was pretty much by the rules as a kid. So if you said, no plants in the house, and I would have found a way to try and change your mind because I really loved them, but I, would not have had plants. But that wasn't how you ever were, are, you were like, whatever, this is what they like. And if you're going to make a mess, at least you're making a mess doing something you like. So I guess maybe that was the exception. And I mean, it looks cool. People come into the house and they are like, well, this is interesting, probably.
Yeah, it is. Remember the time you had a person that came to the house that was from the botanical garden also?
I do remember that.
Your plants you had. And somebody wanted to have a wedding in the backyard or a photo
No,
shoot.
it was for Fashion Week in New York. These people, they were from a different country, and they were looking, because they weren't familiar with New York, they wanted somewhere to do a tropical theme for whatever fashion line they were doing. And I ended up losing contact with them, and I wasn't home at the time anyway. But it was funny. It was interesting because they saw on my social media that I lived in New York, not realizing probably that Staten Island is so difficult to get to. It's not far from Manhattan, but it's so difficult to get to it if you don't live here. But anyways, yes, people are interested in plants. They like the tropical stuff. Let's see what's going on down there. Is somebody moving in or moving out? I don't know. I don't think anyone's moving anywhere these days. Anyways, I definitely wanted people to get a little idea of how this all started and how supportive you are, because I imagine people must be wondering what it is like to, know me and live in a house with me, because I've got plants behind me, you've got plants behind you, and they're all my plants, and we're a couple hundred miles apart from each other. So it's like a plant army. When I left Florida, I gave my plants away to my friends, and then brought the rest with me here after I got it approved.
That was interesting also. We had to get a special truck. Remember?
Yeah, I had to get them approved in order to cross the state borders, and we needed a special truck, a air-conditioned little vehicle.
So, and they came that night, and they delivered the plants so that they wouldn't die, because they called it Operation Green.
They did. The movers, yeah.
So, and we spent the whole night unloading just the plants to bring them up into the apartment.
That was all I was concerned with. You can buy furniture, but you can't buy plants with sentimental value. So, and you know what? The staghorn fern actually came from Rutgers, but my last year of college. And so that was up in New York, and in New Jersey, and in Florida, and in South Carolina. And it just keeps on crossing state lines.
And it followed you on that moving truck also.
Yeah, it followed me on. It wasn't really a moving truck. It was a little. The way we moved from New York to Florida was a little odd. That'll be a different Zoom meeting. It wasn't exactly your conventional move, but I did manage to have. It did come with me. Well, my battery is almost dead right now on my laptop.
Nice joining you and I hope to join you again. And
yeah, we'll do this again. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate it. And, keep on watering those plants. We're almost to spring up there. I appreciate it.
I love them, but not as much as you.
I know. Well, that's the thing. It's like you love me, so you take care of the plants more so than, and you do obviously care for the plants, because there's just no way, there's no amount of love in the world where you can take care of. You could try, but you're not going to succeed unless you actually care a little bit about the plants too.
When I look at your face when you come home, and the first thing you do is you look around and you make sure everything looks good, and I see how happy you are. Then I know my work was well worth it.
It's one of the first things I do after I say hi to everybody. Literally, the first thing I do, I say hello to everyone, into the backyard, up and down the stairs. How are all the plants doing? It's just, they're like my little children.
I would love to join you again, and happy to meet everybody.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks, Mom. I appreciate it. Love you. Thanks for coming on.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.